It's 5 o'clock in Pirate Country, and it's time to get pumped up with the P-Man. Hit the door and hit the road. 94.3 The Game is going to get you home, and the P-Man's not holding back.
Yes! Yes! Pirates win! Pirates win!
Bring on the Patrick Johnson Show on 94.3 The Game.
Holy mackerel! Oh, my goodness!
The flagship station of the ECU Pirates.
Well, hello again, everybody. Patrick Johnson here with you. Welcome as we are up and running. 4 o'clock here in the East. 1 Pacific time.
Do it live!
That's right. Doing it live. Where out in the Pacific, no tsunami, apparently. There's an earthquake off the West Coast this morning, Phil. Did you know that?
No, I did
read
not
about
see
this?
that.
Did you see about this? Yeah. And so, like a 7.3 magnitude quake. Joe Giglio, OG Podcast, will join us today. Got a lot to talk about with Joe. We also will tell you that tomorrow we're going to have Joey Football, Joe Sampson, Rini Ngolia scheduled to join us. He'll, of course, will be on the pregame on ESPN Plus for the AAC Championship game, which is Tulane and Army. And that'll be on ABC tomorrow night. Also, we'll have Brittany Hoyt, who works with me on ESPN Plus with basketball, men's and women's basketball, and also volleyball. ECU volleyball slated to play tonight in the opening round of the NIVC. If they win, they will get the winner of UConn and Mercer, who are playing right now. Have Mercer. But we start things with the one and only Coach Steve Logan, the Logan Zone, coming up today at 5 o'clock here on 94.3 The Game, also on Talk 96.3 at New Bern, Jacksonville, and down at the Crystal Coast. Coach, hope it was a good Thanksgiving for you.
It was absolutely wonderful. My favorite holiday of the year, as we talked about last week. But I want to interject. I heard you just announced they had an earthquake in California. True?
They off the coast, yeah, off the coast of California. Sure thing.
Okay,
yeah,
well,
that's the word this morning.
Well, my first night as the quarterback coach of the San Francisco 49ers, I flew in, went to my Marriott hotel, went to bed, and about midway through the night, literally was knocked, almost fell out of bed. And I thought, what in the wide world of sports? I thought, well, you have dreams where you jerk awake.
Yeah.
I thought, well, that was the most violent one I've ever had in my life. And I kind of went back to bed, and then I woke up the next day, and guess what? We had an earthquake. That was my first and only experience with an earthquake. So there's that little story. Now that that's out of the way, we can proceed.
You know, this summer they were having earthquakes, and you'll know where this is, kind of that tip of Texas. I guess it's a panhandle that goes up towards Oklahoma. There was supposedly some... Yeah, from the fracking, yeah. But, I mean, the California thing, good Lord. I don't know. We've been through hurricanes. You know that as well as anybody. Give me that all day. I don't know about an earthquake. I'd be abject panic if I were in an earthquake.
Yeah, we've all seen the videos, but everybody says that outside third of California is going to fall in the ocean, and in some ways, that might not be the worst thing that could happen. You never know. That'd straighten them up, I'll promise you that.
Yeah, a lot would change if that
it would certainly change the dynamics.
Well, you know this, too. I mean, if there's I've got a relative in Illinois, or a lot of relatives out in Illinois, and, they're in central and southern Illinois, and they all the time bitch and moan about Chicago, because that Chicago runs the state of Illinois politically and everything
right.
else. So they're like, it'd be great if we had a southern Illinois and a northern Illinois.
No
same
doubt.
thing in California. You almost need 3 states in California. It'd be much
that's
different.
True. I've lived there for 2 years, and that's all I'll say.
Yeah, I hear you. Coach Logan coming up today. So I want to ask you a couple things that we what a year Army had in the American. And just a year they've had. They've had a great year. Got a great quarterback in Daly. And boy, you hope he's just All right, there we go.
Midland Chevrolet is your trust.
We got Patrick back. All right, Patrick.
All right.
We lost you and Coach. Looks like we got Coach back.
Okay, all right. You know what? You know who I'm putting that one on, Coach? You know who I'm putting that one on?
No, I'm putting that on California.
No. I'm putting that one on Dangerous Dan Miller, Dr. No, and Philip Pilkington. Because I think that was a them studio issue. That wasn't a Logan Johnson issue.
That was we were speaking the truth about how messed up California is, and this program's headquarters are probably in Silicon Valley, and they didn't like it too much. Is probably what this was.
I thought it was an earthquake. So
they can't handle the truth.
So here we are. We're back.
Cannot.
Look, false start. That's okay. We were talking about Army. Army and Tulane, the huge game for Army. Of course, their big games next week. That's their Super Bowl against Navy every year and vice versa. So I just wonder, you're playing in this championship game. I think Navy's done it one time where they played the conference championship game and then played Army the next week. So this is, for a normal team, conference championship game in a way is kind of the big game. You want to be up, you want to be emotionally at a peak. So that's quite an interesting balance, I got to imagine, this week in the Army locker room.
Yeah, it's different, but I can attest to you. When I left East Carolina, I coincidentally did color commentary for Army football, and I did that for 2 years. So every weekend I was flying to West Point and on the Nesson television network, and I had a ball doing that. But anyway, I got familiar and intimate with the way of life for the cadets. Mm-hmm. And I can testify to you that beat Navy from the moment you walk onto the campus until you graduate, and then years after, it's beat Navy. And of course, the opposite is true, that, you walk, if you're going to be a midshipman, you're going to walk on and it's beat Army. And there's a ton of pressure on those kids to win that game. But I will tell you that, I got to believe that a bunch of 19, 20-year-old high intellect guys, and I can testify, these are the best of the best, because I got to interact with some of these football players as a color commentator, interviewing them and whatever. And this is not the normal college football player. This is the best of the best. These are super high intellect people. Having said that, they are more than capable of revving their engine up emotionally 2 weeks in a row. I promise you that they can and will. And I'm really going to be fascinated by the conference championship game. I see where Tulane is favored. Yeah, that to me is a little bit interesting. I'm convinced that option football, triple option football, which of course Navy and Army, that's their bread and butter. I am convinced, Patrick. I grew up. I'm 148 years old now, and I grew up running the wishbone, coaching the wishbone, learning how to defend the wishbone. When it came out in the 60s, early or late 60s, early 70s, they were racking up points like the early spread offenses began to rack up 10 years ago. Nobody knew how to defend it.
Right.
So you were seeing 60s and 70s and ridiculous. Nobody knew how to defend it. Well, gradually, a whole generation of coaches, my generation of coaches, we were forced to learn how to defend that offense. And they got so good at defending the offense, guess what? The wishbone faded and died. My point I'm making about that is there's this generation of young, to me, they're young, 40-year-old defensive coordinators that run the college football industry these days. They didn't grow up seeing that offense. They basically don't have the first idea how to stop it. And that doesn't make them unintelligent. It makes them ignorant in the true sense of the word. They just don't know how to line up, and they don't get a lot of repetition on how to stop it. I've told this story before. We played Army every year, not every year, but a lot of years at East Carolina. Mm-hmm. And I knew exactly how to go about the game offensively, from the offensive side of the football, which I've shared that with you before. You need to go score and score fast and get ahead of these people and have their ball possession choke their own offense out of existence. And you can do that by getting up 2 scores early. But on the other side of the football, I got involved. I got involved during Army week with the defensive side of the football. Not the particulars, but the generals. And rarely did I talk or get into the defensive room during my years as a head coach. But on that week, I did. And I wanted to make sure that we knew who had the dive, who had the quarterback, and who had the pitch, and who the free safety was keying. Who did the free safety key to let him know run or pass? That is so critical. And there's a way to do it. I won't get into the technicalities of it, but we employed those ideas, and we never lost to Army.
You don't look a day over 143, by the way. Coach Steve Logan
Exactly.
with this.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, it's that good living, clean living, and perseverance. Coach, let me ask you these conference championship games, because I think it was Lane Kiffin or maybe it was Beamer. Somebody said the quiet part out loud, and that is coaches don't want to play in these now if they're in the playoff. I mean, SMU, essentially the opportunity for them to be in the playoff apparently rides on what happens to them on Saturday against Clemson. They probably need to be in the playoff. They've had a heck of a year, win or lose. Miami's a great, so it's an interesting balance because we know why they're playing these conference championship games in football. Money. But at what point are you going to get serious pushback from certain ADs and universities if their brand name is left out of this playoff?
Well, it's already seen Miami kicked out, and Alabama's going to evidently be in it no matter what.
Right.
And, Philip and I were talking before we went on the air that, this college football committee, and, we were also talking about bowl games, which later, but there's a lot of backroom blackjack that gets played this time of year, and don't kid yourself, it's being played right now. And this college football selection committee, if they had their way about it, there wouldn't even be and watch 11 games of Alabama versus Notre Dame every week. That's what they want.
Yeah.
And we saw that about 5 years ago when they made Notre Dame become the entrant into the championship game, and Alabama beat them 4,000 to nothing. It was embarrassing for the entire
sport.
It
wasn't any good. Yeah, terrible.
Yeah, but that was backroom blackjack. I mean, that could have happened. And I've often, Notre Dame in particular is an irritant to me because I've said before that, if Notre Dame was a contest, Notre Dame would win it. They've got the biggest boobs of everybody out there, and they always win the contest.
Right.
And it just goes on. Now this year, I think Notre Dame's a good football team, a legit good football team.
Yeah.
But you see my point. There's certain brand names. I mean, they would beat SMU and just get rid of SMU. What in the wide world of sports are they doing in the top 10? Well, they earned their way there, but they don't count that. They want a brand name, and Alabama's got a brand. Arizona State doesn't. Iowa State doesn't. But one of those is going to get into this thing, and it's just kind of irritating the living daylights out of the powers that be, and I'm kind of like I'm here for it with my popcorn, watching and laughing.
Do you think Notre Dame will wind up in a conference sooner than later? They're going to have to, aren't they?
I guess they will eventually as this thing shifts around. This goes back to one of my other irritants with Notre Dame. And, and I understand everything's driven by money, but I'm going to tell you something about if Steve Logan was the commissioner of the ACC back 10 years ago when this Notre Dame thing came along and Notre Dame said, well, we'll join your conference as a part-time member and play you 3 or 4 games a year if we want to, when we want. I would have told those guys to kiss my fanny at 5th and Main. I would have never, ever let Notre Dame tell the ACC conference. And 10 years ago when all this took place, the ACC conference they had some stroke.
They were making the most money.
Well,
there was a time they were making the most money.
They were. And guess what? But the ACC, what did I say a minute ago? It's a wet T-shirt contest. They fell for the big boobs. And, this was their league. It wasn't. And it hasn't been.
Yeah.
You want, but I'm just telling you that, I do know that there is a strong push behind the scenes. I've mentioned this on my radio show. There's a strong push for an outside equity firm to purchase and create a 70 team Super League, which basically is what you're dealing with right now. The Power Four and back Washington State and Oregon State, and you're sitting there looking at a perfect 70, and here we go.
Coach, reports from inside Carolina. Pilkington's a subscriber, so that's how he knows this. Inside Carolina says the Tar Heels have interviewed Bill Belichick to be their next head coach. All right, tell me why.
It's the same reason that I got people thought that I had one too many glasses of wine when I said if I was East Carolina, I'd call John Gruden and make him say no.
Right.
And it's the Deion Sanders experiment that is live and in color right in front of every athletic director that's out there. Okay? If you've got enough vision and you've got enough balls, I'll say that, and you have a forward-thinking president of the university, if they understand the landscape you're on right now, which again, I'm convinced they don't, but if they do understand it, hiring Bill Belichick at the University of North Carolina with a $12 million NIL purse makes perfect sense. Perfect sense. Because again, I'll say this: Deion Sanders just last week he was being criticized for never making a recruiting visit, and his response was, "Why would I leave the campus to go sit in some living room? That's a waste of time. I can call him on the phone. Call him on the phone. Here's our number. You want to come? Oh, you got more from the other guy? Well, let me think about this if you're worth that or not. You're not. I'll see you later. Go buy another one. Or you are, and I'll give you more." That's all it's come down to. You don't have to recruit. You can be Bill Belichick. I've met Coach Belichick and had some interactions with him in NFL Europe, and he's obviously a super high intellect guy. And his personality that is portrayed in the press conferences is not what he is behind the scenes. And he would be incredible working with a college football team. And the credibility he'd have walking in the front door, and you talk about shaking up the ACC. Ooh, holy moly. They better pray to God that he doesn't decide to take that job.
All right, the coach will be with you at 5 o'clock today. Coach Logan, thanks a lot. We'll look forward to hearing you then.
All right, see you later.
Steve Logan, 5 o'clock today, Logan Zone. Joe Giglio, when we come back, we'll talk about the ACC and college football more with him.
Medlin Chevrolet is your trusted Ayton dealership. Medlin Chevrolet has made their home in Ayton, serving Pitt, Lenoir, and surrounding areas for 7 years. Because of local support and dedicated employees, we are growing. Just breaking ground on our brand new service facility to serve you even better. Medlin Chevrolet has an incredible pre-owned vehicle inventory. Our staff are courteous and service-minded professionals that provide value and integrity Monday through Saturday. Find the perfect vehicle for your lifestyle today at Medlin Chevrolet, Highway 11, Ayton.
The best burgers around. Everyone loves a thick, juicy, and fresh burger. Tiebreakers does real burgers better than anybody. And don't forget about the cheese sticks, fresh salads, and more. So don't just go to any burger-themed restaurant chain. It's time to break the chain and eat local. Tiebreakers, burgers and sports at its best.
Go Pirates! Hard!
Get back to work, back to play, and back to the everyday with Orthopedics East and Sports Medicine Center in Greenville. Ortho East specializes in advanced care for patients with osteoarthritis, rheumatoid arthritis, debilitating joint diseases, and total joint replacements. Schedule your appointment today by going online to orthoeast.com or by calling us at 252-757-BONE. And remember, our weekend extended care clinic is open from 10 to 2 p.m. for walk-ins. Orthopedics East, official team physicians of ECU Athletics.
Need to insure a boat in Edenton, a business in Elizabeth City, a car in Greenville? How about a farm truck in Mount Olive or a home on the Outer Banks? Weatherly Insurance Agency, an independent insurance agency with 6 locations in eastern North Carolina, is here to help. Weatherly Insurance Agency has agents you can get to know because they're your neighbors and live in your town. Call today, 888-OBX-2-IBX, or on the web at weatherlyinsurance.com. From the Outer Banks to the Inner Banks, Weatherly Insurance has you covered.
Anson Belt and Buckle offers a micro-adjustable, holeless belt, giving you the perfect fit every time. As an ECU alumni-owned business since 2009, Anson Belt is proud to be the official belt of East Carolina Athletics. Looking for a new belt for yourself or a special pirate? Visit AnsonBelt.com to see why over 30,000 customers have given their Anson Belt a 5-star review. With dozens of materials to choose from and thousands of possible combinations, you'll find the belt for every occasion, especially game day, at AnsonBelt.com.
Hey, it's me again, Gray Fussell, 4th generation winemaker at Duplin Winery and proud alum of ECU. I'm looking forward to Pirate football and, of course, tailgating. I love to see you bring your favorite Duplin wine to your tailgate, tag us on our Instagram or TikTok, and my dad and I will pick our favorite photo from each home game. A winner will be chosen, and you'll get a basket of our best Duplin swag. So get your Duplin wine from your favorite store or come see us at one of our wineries. Go Pirates!
Taking the rage out of your drive home?
You just cut me off! But it's no big deal.
Patrick Johnson on 94.3 The Game and the new IBX Media app.
I saw Joe Friday in front of the tower there at Dowdy Ficklin Stadium. He had shown up with his lovely wife, who I'd never met before, but is one of the coolest and bravest women that you can ever come across. And Joe was braving it out there in the chilly elements, football like it should be. All right, Joe Giglio, great to talk to you. It's been a minute. Many places to start. Let's start, though, with East Carolina that got rid of Mike Houston and hired Blake Carroll, made the move permanent, and you followed the Pirates this year. Your son, of course, is working with Stephen Igo at Hoist the Colors. So when you look at the Pirate program, was that the right move, Blake Carroll, permanent head coach?
I think it helps them financially, and I think it helps them with the group of players that they have currently. I'm not sure, though, how it helps them moving forward until we see what Blake Carroll looks like as a head coach. I thought the teams that they beat, save for North Texas, were probably teams they could have beaten with Mike Houston as the head coach, quite frankly. But I don't blame ECU for making the change at the time that they made the change. It's curious to me with Harrell. He's never been a head coach before. So much of what he's done has been with Mike Houston. So sometimes you can be a guy who's an assistant and kind of your whole life has been with that coach, and you could still be different from that coach. And I think ECU can hope that. But this is a little bit of a wait and see for me for ECU. And of course, what did you learn in the portal and how you spent your money last year and how do you do that better? These are all things that matter for them. But I do think ultimately, if you're Mike Houston, hard to lose the game to App State that they did at home this year, and there's never a single reason ECU should ever lose to Charlotte in football, ever, let alone twice, and let alone by a bazillion points this year. So, if I'm John Gilbert, I would have fired him that day after the Charlotte game, to be perfectly honest with you. And I like Mike Houston. I think he is a very good coach, but that cannot be a result that happens.
Yeah, and I'm not so sure that the decision was not made. That's the day we're firing Mike Houston. It just didn't officially happen until a week or whatever it was, a couple weeks later. All right, let's look and let's talk a little bit about, you brought up a couple schools there that have vacancies. Charlotte is one of them. Obviously, the Biff Poggi thing, that act had worn really thin a long time ago. If you're Charlotte, what are you going for in this head coaching hour? You know who I think I would call if I were both Charlotte and App? I'd call Mac Brown. I'd make Mac Brown tell me no. Because I think Mac wants to be back, baby. Mac said he wanted to be back. So why not let Mac ride out high in the saddle? He likes reclamation projects. You know, you can only buy and sell $10 million homes on figure eight so many times within a span and not get abused on the taxes, I guess. But anyway, point being, Giglio, that I'd make Mac Brown tell me no.
No, that's a terrible idea. If I'm App State, the only former App State coach I'm calling is Scott Satterfield. I would call him, but I suspect they'll both go younger. Man, it's such a weird year to me in the G5 that so many of these schools. You mentioned Biff Poggi and his act being tired. He didn't even make it through 3 years at Charlotte.
No, didn't make it through 2.
That's kind of sort of wild to me. Without an arrest, that they showed him the door as quickly as they did. I'm being perfectly honest with you. I'm not one of these people who says, "No, who are you gonna get? You have to keep Coach so and so because you'll never get anybody better." I'm not that person at all. But I'm also the kind of person that realizes if this is the game you want to play, you could be playing it pretty regularly. And I think App State could find themselves in that position. Again, Sean Clark, I think it was 40-24 is the number.
Yeah.
Pretty serious hurricane this year, disrupting their entire season. I get it. There were some performances this year by App State that most people would consider inexcusable. But you're by firing him, you're officially now moving on from that Jerry Moore era. You're moving on from the icon of your program, the person who created your program. And that's not to say you can't have some one-off success like they did with Eli Drinkwitz, who took that job for a year and turned it into a bigger job at Missouri. But you're going to need to be prepared that if you're going to have success, that you're going to lose coaches. And that's not a bad place to be. To a certain extent, NC State and North Carolina would love to be in that place. Look where Duke was with Mike Elko. You would take that 10 times out of 10. But I do wonder, in specific to App State, sometimes you got to be a little bit careful what you wish for.
Joe Giglio, the OG podcast, wherever you download your favorite podcast. He joins us here, a little post-mortem on the regular season that was. We'll know more about the Bulls and the playoff and its final form after Saturday's action. I want to ask you about these fantastic playoff projections. But first, let's start with one of the teams you regularly cover. That is NC State. What kind of year would you have said this was in Raleigh? I've been saying it's a major disappointment. Now tell me why I'm wrong.
Disappointment is the word. And not only for going 6-6, but for losing the games at home that they did. Say what you want about Syracuse and how they ended their season. There's not a whole lot of reasons that NC State should lose at home to Syracuse. There's no reason they should lose to Duke and Wake Forest. There's less than no reason that they should lose all 3 of those games on their home field. That's part of it. Now, if you win those 3 games, obviously you're not 6-6, you're 9-3, which is basically what Dave has been. That's kind of sort of being happy with the status quo, though. To me, the real disappointment was not being competitive against Tennessee, straight up quitting in the second half of that football game. I can't think of a good reason for that. Then you go to Clemson with a shot at redemption and to show people you're not as terrible as you showed in that spotlight game against Tennessee down in Charlotte, and you don't show up for the first half of that football game. So, those 2 games are the ones you're trying to measure yourself against. We call it, on the Ovius and Giglio podcast, we call it triangle good. You shouldn't be happy with being triangle good. You should want to aspire to more. And the Tennessee game was your first chance to show people that you could be. And Clemson was your other chance. And you absolutely fell flat on your face in both football games. Spectacularly, by the way, in the Tennessee game, to the point where, they might never be invited back to a showcase game again. And they have no one to blame but themselves.
when you look at Dave Doran's term on his contract, and had they lost last weekend, I think there'd be a little more movement in the way of this. But is next year under more of the microscope? I'm not going to say hot seat, but I mean, is he really going to come under heavy scrutiny next year?
As long as Boo Corrigan is the AD, no. I think Boo has not shown a lot in his tenure here, but the one thing he has shown is that he cares tremendously about the financial well-being of the athletic department. And NC State would owe Dave Doran, after next year, it would be $12 million, which NC State doesn't have laying around. To be fair to Dave, I think Dave outperforms the resources and the financial backing that he has. And I think he does get to that triangle good level more often than he doesn't. His problem is he can't break through. Not for a 10-win season, not for a spot in the ACC championship game, not for an ACC title, not for a major bowl. Those are all holes on his resume. I do think as this year that I will give him credit for, the one thing I'll give him credit for this year is he's had bad years before, 4-8, 3-9. Well, this year you're 6-6 as a bad team. That's not bad. That's not bad. So I think that's progress for Dave, but it's not ultimately where anyone thought this season could have been in terms of pressure. A lot of I write about this often for our newsletter, OG Fans, it's called. I say there's a portion of every fan base that doesn't like you, and there's a portion of every fan base that loves you. It's the middle portion that expands and contracts. And that middle portion grew vociferously against Dave Doran this season. But, first of all, then you beat Carolina, and all of a sudden it becomes, okay, all right. You make a bowl game. Heck, maybe they play ECU up in Annapolis. That would be awesome. I would love to see that. But, you win a game like that, all of a sudden people start liking you again. Maybe you get C.J. Bailey back as their quarterback, which they've done.
Right.
People like that. People aren't going to like that Robert Anae is coming back as the offensive coordinator. I can tell you that for sure. But, ultimately, I think Dave is the person who's responsible for this program. And I think all the people who get mad at Anae, and I'm one of them, cool. Anybody can be that. Bill Walsh could come back from the grave and call the offense, and Dave wouldn't let the all-time greatest play caller call the plays. So you have to accept that it's Dave.
Right.
He's the one pulling the levers. It's not the OC. So it'll be one of those off seasons where usually Dave does his better work. Last year everyone was so excited about the players that they added in the portal, and who was coming back and who then it was, oh man, the college football playoff is this year. Look how easy the schedule is. We could go 10-2 or 11-1 and make the playoff. And it's like, no, that's not what happened. But I do think this will be one of those years where, Carolina's going to get a lot of attention no matter who they hire.
Sure.
And Duke should feel good about where they are in their position in the triangle. ECU's going to have a new coach. App State's going to have a new coach. So you're going to be pretty low just in the state of North Carolina on people's radar. And typically that's where Dave does his better work. Their schedule's better next year. We'll see how that kind of works out. But yeah, P-Man, that doughy middle got pretty doughy this year at working against Dave Doran.
OG Podcasts, Joe Giglio with us here, along with his colleague Joe Ovius. They put out a fantastic product for the young people. All right, let me ask you this, Giglio. When you look at two things about the Carolina job, one as far as let's start with Mac. Was this a successful era?
I think ultimately, the first 2 years in particular, he brought an excitement, he brought an interest. There was definitely a nostalgic feel to it. He made people care about Carolina football. That's a good thing. The last 4 years of it, though, there were serious coaching problems. No one has ever confused Mac with being an X and O guy, and that's fine. I remember talking to his agent It was actually the ECU game in 18 that Carolina lost, and his agent had reached out to me and said, "Hey, man, Carolina's going to move on from Fedora. Why not Mac?" And I said, "Well, that's fine. I mean, he'll be a very good spokesman for the program, salesman for the program. He's going to recruit, but who's going to coach the team?" And well, his answer at the time was Cliff Kingsbury. Of course, that never worked out. But my caution the whole time was who's actually going to coach the team. And if you can't figure that out, well, guess what? That's on you, the CEO. You're the boss. And the way that he memory holed people into the 22 season they were a preseason top 10 team that finished 6-7, lost their opener to an almost extremely average Virginia Tech team, a game they had no business losing. 6-7, unranked, losing record. Nobody blinked. The next year they start 9-0. They lose their last 4 games. Nobody blinks. In 23, they win the division, but they lose 5 of their last 7 games, and no one blinked, including a game in Raleigh where they did not show up for the football game. So for the life of me, I couldn't figure out why they didn't fire him last year, other than he's Mac Brown. And as he said, I asked the top 6 boosters what they thought we should do. So that power play has been going on for a while. And then I, at the risk of spraining my elbow, I said on this my program 3 or 4 different times, James Madison is a team used to winning. James Madison's going to come into Chapel Hill. I even said it was going to be a noon game, and there would be not many people in the stands. And they would leave the stadium and say, what happened? Where did all that fun go? Where did all that nostalgia go? What happened? And it's exactly what happened. They got run out of the gym by a really good program that other people didn't respect. Enough people in blue didn't respect. And the results ever since then, it's been a fait accompli since that James Madison game. Obviously, the Boston College loss was the cherry on top. And now you have the loss to State. But give it a few more years and people will look at it and go, cool. That was really cool. Those first 2 years were really cool. But there's going to come a time probably in the next 2 years where Amari and Hampton is a 1,000-yard rusher in the NFL and Drake May is a top-line starter in the NFL. And you're going to be a Carolina fan and you're going to go, now, wait a second. We had Drake May and Amari and Hampton and we couldn't win 10 games? How does that work? So
is there an appetite to, it seems like they're doing a real, actual search. Bubba's not being told who to hire this time like he has in every other coaching search that has gone on. So let me ask you this. Is there an appetite there to do what you have to do to win 10 games and be serious about football in Chapel Hill?
I think that's where this financial commitment comes in. And even Mac mentioned this in his last press conference, that he felt like the NIL situation would be in better position for the next coach. And, it does come down to that. I think there's part of this. Let's just say they hire Glenn Schumann from Georgia. I think it probably would be a good idea for Carolina to go get somebody who can help them get away from this kind of soft concept of that they can't play defense, that there's something in the water in Chapel Hill, that they're incapable of playing defense. I think you bring in a guy from that Saban, Kirby Smart tree and you say, all right, here's what we're going to do identity-wise. And, of course, anyone you get from the Saban, Kirby Smart tree, recruiting-wise, is going to have all of their T's crossed and I's dotted. And he would be Glenn Schumann's 34 years old. That's wild, P-Man. They could go from somebody who was 73 running their program to somebody who was 34. The returning players on that team are going to be like, where'd Grandpa go? What happened? Right. So it's going to be a whole different world for them. But it could be a really, really good thing for Carolina football. And I don't remember the last time I've ever said that it could be a really, ever since Mac left, they've kind of been searching. And Butch Davis came in with, a lot of the swagger and recruiting hope. But obviously that disintegrated in an academic scandal.
with the 3-loss teams, does Alabama deserve to be in this playoff?
If you take Alabama's name off of their resume, if you take all of the names off of the resume, you go by strength of record, you go by strength of schedule, you go by the teams who have quality wins, Alabama beats anybody head-to-head with wins and their resume. The question to me that I've had this whole time is, how is this committee going to treat losses? I laughed out loud when Ward Manuel said, Alabama is 6-1 against teams with a winning record. Okay, well, that means they're 3-2 against teams with a losing record, Ward. Right. So, I mean, just so you know, that's how the math works. They seem to want it both ways, this committee. They want to reward Indiana and Notre Dame and Penn State for beating bad teams, but they don't want to reward Miami for beating bad teams.
Right.
Now, note, you have the brand of Notre Dame, you have 2 Big Ten teams, and then Miami. I'll say this for Miami. They did not help themselves. I think Syracuse is a pretty good team. I think Georgia Tech's salty as all get out. No shame in losing to Georgia Tech. But you got to win the games. I mean, it's kind of comes down to it. When you're not Alabama, when you're not in the SEC, you're not in the Big Ten, you better give the committee no reason to leave you out. And unfortunately for Miami, with their defense, they gave the committee a reason to leave them out. The one I'm going to be super interested in is if Clemson wins. Right now, they have SMU 3 spots ahead of Alabama. Mm-hmm. So you're saying to me, you're telling me on December 4th, you think SMU is better than Alabama. Now, if SMU loses a close game, are you going to put Alabama ahead of SMU? I mean, I think you and I already know the answer. SMU is not getting into this tournament over Alabama.
No.
Right?
No.
So, but you're sitting here telling me, based on 12 games, I think, this is the committee now, I think SMU is better than Alabama after 12 games. Quite frankly, if I'm SMU, I would tell the ACC, cool, I'm not going to Charlotte. I'm not playing. Sorry.
Yeah.
So I'm not going, because if I don't play in the game, I'm in the tournament. But if I play in the game, there's a chance I might not be in the tournament. So for me, I would just be like, sorry, I'm not doing it.
Yeah. Gosh, these championship games are going away, though, soon, aren't they? They have to.
I don't know.
They have to.
I don't know. Too much money.
Yeah, a lot of money, and that's what it all comes down to. All right, Joe, we are out of time. I will talk to you maybe in a couple weeks. We'll get you before Christmas, if we could do that.
Yeah, and again, for real, if Carolina or State end up playing ECU up in Annapolis, I'm going to be there. So I'm excited for that.
There we go. All right. We need to we can you'll do your show, we'll do our show, we'll mesh it all together. All right, Joe, great to see you again. Great to talk to you. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Patrick, as always.
Philip Pilkington here with your 94.3 The Game Sports Flash Update and Pirate Report. The volleyball team will be in action tonight in the first round of the NIVC as they host Winthrop. The winner of that game will play tomorrow night at 6 o'clock against the Yukon Huskies, who defeated Mercer earlier today in straight sets. You can head on over to Williams Arena Minges Coliseum. You can still get tickets, however you do have to purchase them. It was announced earlier today that Liberty and Buffalo will play in the Bahamas Bowl. That game is scheduled for Saturday, January the 4th at 11 a.m. There have been multiple reports that North Carolina has interviewed former Patriots head coach Bill Belichick for their head coaching vacancy. They let go of Mac Brown before their final game of the season. However, he did coach in the final game against NC State. The Jaguars have put quarterback Trevor Lawrence on IR today. He's not technically out for the season. He can come back for Week 18, but it is very unlikely. The Cowboys put All-Pro offensive lineman Zach Martin on season-ending IR today. It turns out he will need ankle surgery. The Hornets will be back in action tonight. They travel up to the world's most famous arena as they try and snap a 6-game skid as they take on the Knicks. The Canes will be back in action and they try and snap a 3-game losing streak. They will be hosting the Colorado Avalanche tonight inside the Lenovo Center. That'll be your 94.3 The Game Sports Flash Update and Pirate Report. We will be back to wrap up the Patrick Johnson Show on the other side of this timeout.
Choosing the right Medicare coverage can be overwhelming. but having a local partner like Flatlands Jessup makes all the difference. Our team understands the unique needs of our community because we've been a part of it since 1963, locally serving clients. The annual enrollment period runs from October 15th to December 7th. If you don't act now, you or your loved one could be locked into your current plan until 2026. This year, take the time to make sure your plan truly meets your needs. Flatlands Jessup, your whole world covered.
Looking for outdoor storage, maybe a she shed, man cave, tiny home, or greenhouse? If so, East Carolina Outdoor Products is your one-stop shop. They carry wood sheds, small to large, all customizable online. East Carolina Outdoor Products also has a full line of custom steel buildings, including carports, garages, workshops, and commercial-graded structures. They're the only company in Eastern Carolina that manufactures, delivers, and sells outdoor storage buildings, and they're pirates. 10 locations in Eastern North Carolina.
Tell them Henry sent you for an additional discount. Turn your car into cash with an instant Kelly Blue Book offer from Barber Hendrick Honda in Greenville. Go online to barberhendrickhonda.com to value your trade, explore inventory, and apply for financing, all from the comfort of home. At Barber Hendrick Honda, we have great deals on new inventory and an extensive used inventory that includes all makes and models. Schedule service for your vehicle online and take advantage of our monthly specials. Barber Hendrick Honda, a proud member of the Eastern North Carolina community at the point of Greenville Boulevard and Memorial Drive.
The holidays are here and excitement is near, but with blended families, step-parenting, and co-parenting, it can be an especially trying time. At Michael & Russell, their attorneys understand that holidays can be stressful and are here to help with your family law, adoption, and divorce matters. If you know anyone that needs help focusing on family solutions these holidays, Michael & Russell with A&R Law would be glad to lend a helping hand. Find them online at michaelandrussell.com or phone 252-702-4376.
Is your pharmacy fumbling when it comes to customer service, prescription fills, compounding, medical equipment, and enteral intravenous therapy? Perhaps it's time for you to allow HealthWise Pharmacy to score a touchdown in regards to your pharmaceutical needs. Locally owned and operated by pharmacist Marcy Parker, HealthWise Pharmacy puts you and your health first, offering top-of-the-line customer service, individual attention, and free prescription delivery to anywhere in Pitt County. HealthWise Pharmacy, 615B Memorial Drive in Greenville.
As fall approaches, two things come to mind: football and cooler weather. This is Rachel Davis with Advanced Mechanical Heating and Air. We wanted to thank you for the trust you have put in us this summer. Before you know it, cooler temperatures will arrive, signaling winter is on the way. Don't wait. Prepare now for colder temperatures by scheduling a tune-up. Give us a call today at 252-355-9191 or visit our website, advancedmechnc.com.
We have you covered with all the ECU news and beyond that you need for the drive home. The Patrick Johnson Show on 94.3 The Game.
Okay, so we're doing our Operation Santa Claus Radiothon. And it was taking place today at Bake My Day Cafe. It ended about an hour, 50 minutes ago. They raised $48,566. The goal was $50,000. Maybe they got over that with some last-minute opportunities there. The Radiothon moves tomorrow over to Carteret County, and it will be there in. Do we know which dealership, Philip? It'll be at one of the Mike Toller dealerships.
It will be,
Dean
but I
Rankin
can't remember off the top of my head.
I can't remember which one. But anyway, tomorrow morning, 96.3, 103.7, also 107.9 WNCT is involved in that. So good effort today. Thanks to everybody who contributed and donated. And again, we're trying to push for $100,000 tomorrow. A little work to do, but I think we'll get it done. All right. East Carolina weight loss. I've had a lot of success with that. Over 50 pounds down. I'm on my second go around with them. Was down a couple of pounds this week. Going back for the big weigh-in and measurements on Monday. They are having a huge Black Friday 20% off sale right now. It's good through tomorrow, December 6th. The lowest prices of the year, plus a free full-body composition analysis. They know the secret of losing up to 1 pound of fat every day with no exercise, no prepackaged meals, no counting points, no counting calories. There's no drugs involved, no surgery, and no injections. Sign up now. Start losing those unwanted pounds either before, during, or after the holidays. No excuse not to start now. You can keep the weight off for good. No more losing weight and gaining it back. I had a great Thanksgiving meal last week. I had a steak last night in a restaurant. Go to EastCarolinaWeightLoss.com now. Schedule that free consultation. No obligation, free consultation. EastCarolinaWeightLoss.com is where you can go. Or you could call 252-496-3610, 252-496-3610. And again, you can go to EastCarolinaWeightLoss.com. Tell them Patrick Johnson sent you. Take advantage of the lowest prices of the year with this huge Black 20% off Friday sale. It is good through tomorrow, December 6th. Get up with East Carolina Weight Loss, EastCarolinaWeightLoss.com. A few more minutes as we wrap up things here today. A lot of reaction to the John Gilbert interview from yesterday. I thought we were comprehensive and covered a lot of things. The words I am hearing now, Pilk, today as far as bowl games go, the indication seems to be that it doesn't look likely with NC State or North Carolina. I think the NC State thing is, since that's the opponent to open the season next year, I think that's a done situation. That isn't happening. North Carolina doesn't want to be there anyway. The ACC is going to have North Carolina play in a bowl game. They're not going to want to be there. Whether Bill Belichick's coaching them or whoever the hell's coaching them, they're not going to want to be there. So, I don't think they're going to send them to the Military Bowl. There's a little bit of prestige with even the Military Bowl for the ACC. Again, Pitt was the name we kind of kept seeing linked to this thing, but all of a sudden Virginia Tech has now emerged, according to some reports out there. So I think, anything could happen. The horse trading is going on. I think Myrtle Beach certainly is still in play if that's what John Gilbert's saying. But all indications seem to point to the Military Bowl. And I'm fine with that. That's a Saturday, and I'm good with that.
Speaking of the Military Bowl, did you see what they tweeted out at a little after noon today?
Yeah, about our committee's meeting for the selection.
Yeah, that was 4 hours ago. What the hell they were talking about? Let's go, people. We don't have till Sunday to figure this out. Let's figure it out now.
Well, and look, there's already you had the announcement in your update. The Bahamas Bowl's already announced. Hawaii's already announced. I kind of understand that because of the travel situation. Both.
Yeah, but there's been a couple other. The Frisco has been announced, and then there's another one of those like Janko Bowls with like two mid majors playing in it. Still, there's been 4 bowl games announced.
Look, Janko Bowl game might actually be the name of it.
It could be. Honestly, you know what, though, Patrick? I sometimes prefer to watch those bowl games where you've got those smaller teams because those young men, that's their one chance to like play on national TV. You don't have a lot of opt-outs. Sometimes those are the best games.
Don't sleep on that because the numbers for those things are huge.
Yeah.
They're huge. People watch those games. More people will watch that than watch most basketball games, until we get to Duke, Carolina in February or some other big ones in February and March. Those bowl games draw huge numbers. And I think it'll be interesting to see how the bowl games are bet on this year in North Carolina. If that creates a little bit of a resurgence in December betting. Or adds to it with the NFL playoffs and all that. Be fascinating to see. All right, a loaded show tomorrow, back at our normal time of 5 o'clock. Rini and Golia from ESPN, Brittany Hoyt from ESPN Plus, and Joey Football from 94.3 The Game. Coach Logan's show is coming up at the top of the hour, back in the morning on Talk of the Town, and then back here for the Patrick Johnson show tomorrow, ESPN Plus for the P-Man, Friday night and Sunday. All right, have a great rest of your evening.
Remember the days when you could go to your favorite butcher shop and get your pork chops or steak